Hello, I'm Monica Price and welcome to CuppaTV. On today's show, I'll be talking to Dan Woodward, a pro wrestler making his return back to the ring. Also joining me today is Phil Hatton, Joyce Strachan-Brain and Alan Cave, who have come to talk to me about the project Justice for the 21. Guest today is Dan Woodward, a pro wrestler who's just made a 4-year comeback into the sport of professional wrestling. He joins me today to talk about his journey. Dan, welcome to CuppaTV.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Great to have you on the show, Dan. So, Dan, tell us, how did it all begin for you? Where did it all start?
Well, actually, a very young age. It was my brother, in fact, that actually got me into professional wrestling in the first stage. My earliest memory of watching it, I was about 5 or 6 years old. It was one of the old WWF pay-per-views back in the day, and there was always just one character which always stood out for me, which is Shawn Michaels. And yeah, ever since I was watching him, he had the charisma, he had the talent, he was just the main man in the ring back in the mid-90s.
Yes.
And yeah, he's just...
I remember when I was a child, wrestling used to be on every Sunday. You
Oh,
always
yeah.
used to
World
watch
of Sport, yeah.
every Sunday. Do you think wrestling's sort of making a comeback now, Dan? Do you think we're
Massively,
more interested
actually,
in
yeah.
it?
I mean, when I first started 10-something years ago, whenever it was, I feel that the UK indie scene was actually starting to build itself back up now. And obviously back then, TV wasn't as big as what it... it wasn't as open as what it is today, I should say, sorry. And what it is back in the world of sport days, obviously wrestling was absolutely huge. It was the main spectacle to watch back in the 70s, and I feel like it's definitely making a comeback today. It's like you'll go up and down the country, and any region you're in at the moment within the UK, there's always a guaranteed wrestling show happening within your area. You know, within a good 15-minute journey of you, no problem. There's always something going on.
Something
absolutely.
going on there. So tell us, how did you really from a very young age then, Dan, really, that you got your
16,
interest?
yeah, 15,
So then what happened? What did you do? Did you join a gym and start, working out? Or how did it all begin?
Yeah, I started... well, one of my friends from sixth form, he actually got in contact with me, and he told me about a wrestling training school, which was literally a half-an-hour walk from my house. Yeah. And I've always been a massive fan of it as a kid, and all through primary school, all through my breaks in primary school, I was always play wrestling in the schoolyard and whatnot. And I've always had a massive interest for it, so I just thought one day, why not? Let's just give it a go and see what happens. So I joined a wrestling school when I was 15. I was just turning 16 at the time, and it just all started from there.
Did you enjoy it when you went there?
Absolutely loved it.
Did you find that I was going to say, did you find that you kind of found your vocation, really?
Yeah, I mean, at that point, and it still is now. It's still a hobby, absolutely. I actually tried to make something of it later on, which we'll talk about in a bit. But at that point, it was definitely a hobby, and it just sparked something for me to do on the weekends. And then, I started training every Sunday.
Is it quite hard training, Dan?
Oh, absolutely. I just remember my very first training session, because it's when you learn how to take bumps, and it's called bumps, how you fall correctly so you don't injure yourself. I remember doing them all day on a Sunday afternoon training, and then I had sixth form the following day. Monday morning, 8 o'clock, when I woke up, I was just lying in bed, stiff. I couldn't move. But no, it's
because I mean, it's
really
strange. It's a physical sport.
Yeah, it's a really strange sport. It's like there's no other sport in the world where you choose to throw yourself on the floor. It's really weird. But no, it really grasped me straight away. And within the first 3 months of myself training, I got put onto my first show. And I've never been so nervous in my life at all when I first did my first show. Like, I was...
And how old were you, Dan, when that was happening?
I was 16. I just turned 16.
So very
I think
young.
it was
You did very
December
well
2006.
to have your first show, considering you only, just started training.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's just one of the things of it. Because I loved it so much, I just jumped straight onto it, and I just grasped what was needed. I mean, I was very basic at the time. I just did the very minimal. I mean, I remember when I first made my debut, my character was a very arrogant personality to himself, and loved himself. You know, hair always had to be slicked back. This was when I had long hair back in the day, and slicked my hair back and everything. I remember standing just before before the curtain, and my music started to play, and the butterflies in my stomach just exploded. And I walked out, keeping in mind that my character was all cool, slick, you know, absolutely loved myself and all that. I just came out just shouting, "Rah!" all that. I just lost it completely. But yeah, my very first opponent was a guy called Nicky Mace, and he had a lot of experience at the time, and he guided me through the match. And
there's quite a sense of camaraderie, I think, in wrestling. Would you agree with that? Everyone, I know there is this, you know, you have these battles and you all pretend to hate each other. But is there a sense of camaraderie within the sort of organisation?
Pro wrestling it's a show. It's something that you entertain the crowd with, and again, that's one thing which I love doing. I love entertaining people. And then to actually be working in a kind of industry where it's a very physical thing, but at the same time you're entertaining a crowd. You're working with your partner to get each other over. So the crowd boos the bad guy, the crowd cheers the good guy, and
so it's like a theatrical display, really.
Yeah,
isn't
it's a very violent soap opera sort of thing. Yeah.
But I mean, the reality is that, and you have to train. You know, there's a lot of hard work that goes into making sure you can get to the ring. So, what was your fitness regime like?
Well, beforehand, before when I started, it's practically the same as what I'm doing today. Really, you eat properly. You try and cut out the cakes, which is quite tough at times. Try not to drink too much beer and whatnot. But yeah, I'm at the gym at least 3 times a week, 4 times pushing it, and then I train once or twice a week now in an actual ring with a group in Tipton run by the Hunter brothers. Absolutely fantastic people.
So
really
I mean,
good.
because this is your comeback, Dan. So what happened? So you went to America, didn't you? Tell us.
That's right. Yeah, when I was.
What did you do there?
When I was 18, I had a frame of mind of I want to go to America. I want to make it big.
And did you want to be a pro wrestler? Is that,
Absolutely.
You know, you wanted to.
I wanted to go to the big leagues. I wanted to make lots of money out of it, make a living, and yeah, I mean, I went to America when I was 18. I went to Atlanta, Georgia, and that was an experience. When I turned up there, I found out the location of the wrestling school was in a ghetto, which was very strange.
Yes.
I was meant to have been there for 5 weeks. I lasted 2 weeks. I mean, because I remember my very first training session on a Wednesday. The British style compared to the American style of wrestling it's the same, but it's quite different, if you get what I mean. Like, I actually really injured my right ankle on my very first training session, which really got to my heart, because I spent so much money and effort going over there, and I got injured on my very first training session over there. Wasn't the other guy's fault. It was just a misunderstanding sort of thing. He brought me into a hip toss. I didn't understand how close he was actually going to get into me from when I bounced off the ropes, and there was a bit of miscalculation. I went over. I didn't expect to go over so soon, and then my right leg went under my bum, and I sat on my ankle, completely bruised it, and then. But to be honest, that was the thing that I needed. Knowing nowadays what you've got to be, you've got to be big. You've got to be at least 6'5" to actually make something out of yourself.
Are they quite tall, a lot of the wrestlers?
Huge.
I mean, they look
Absolutely.
huge when we see them on the television, but are they, obviously you know, that, I mean, you're tall as well, Dan, but that is an important thing, is it?
Oh, absolutely. It's like you've got to look big. You've got to look bigger than the average person, and that's what a lot of the promotions want. You know, because it wouldn't look good if the average Joe, which is practically me now, really, if I just walked in and then someone in the crowd is sitting down thinking, well, I'm actually bigger than him.
Yes.
I should be in there instead.
Yeah.
It just doesn't look
No,
right.
yeah.
So, you know, if you actually do want to make it to TV, you've got to be big, you've got to look empowering, you've got to have muscle, which I kind of lack as well, unfortunately.
But you're making a comeback, so that's good. You know, that all could be done at the gym. But what
absolutely, yeah.
But what about, so you're 18, you came back from America, and then what happened after that? Was that a disappointing experience for you,
Absolutely.
Dan?
I mean, I was still in college at that point. I was in my final couple of months of college, and I came back. I went straight up to my tutor, Dean, and I apologised profusely to him. I couldn't say sorry enough, but fair play to the guy. He just went down. Go and find yourself a computer. Go and sit down. You've chosen to actually go to university now. Let's do something like that instead. So I went and found a computer. Didn't know what I wanted to do at all. Then and then my tutor said to me, well, what was your favourite part in this course? I was doing a media production course at the time. And I went, well, making my final major project, if anything, it was making what would be a video games trailer. So he said to me, so video production then? And I went, well, actually, yeah, I think that's what I think that's what my passion is. And when I decided to do video production at university, that's when my passion for videography came about. And then I did a couple more years of wrestling every now and again, but because university was taking so much of my time,
did it kind of take a second place?
I couldn't really train as much as what I wanted to, and I kind of guess that my passion started to fall a tiny bit, kind of thing. And then I just said to myself one day, well, I think I just need to stop wrestling now, if anything, and I need to focus on my career. I mean, it's a fantastic hobby, but you need to balance it out.
And what about now, though,
really
Dan? Because obviously now you work for Big Centre TV.
Yeah,
you're here with
BCTV.
us, and you know, and you've had a really good career in the film industry and worked with some very good directors.
Absolutely,
Who have you worked with?
A guy called Tom Higgins and his twin brother Ian Higgins. I was very fortunate to be a cameraman on one of their feature-length films called All That Remains, which is out very, very soon. And I learnt so much off of those guys. It was fantastic. It was such a good experience.
So that you've got that passion as well. But what makes you now say, right? I mean, this is your comeback. You've just had a show. Tell us about that. How did that go?
Yeah, actually, as of time of recording, last Friday, I made my 4-year return to the ring. A couple of months ago, the promoter Rob, who was actually on What's On a couple of weeks ago on our Big Centre TV, we actually had an in-character interview, which went really well. I was really happy with it, and yeah, he just texted me one day saying, I'm running my own show very soon. Do you fancy wrestling on it? And I was just, I think I gave it a week or two, and I was like, do I want to? I don't know. But then I spoke to my family, my brother, if anything, and my best mates, and they were like, do it.
Yeah.
Absolutely do it.
And you've got a name, Dan. What's your name as a pro wrestler?
Yeah, my most recent character is called Bagwell.
Yeah.
I came up with the name, well, the character's a bully. It's something that I've always wanted to do, kind of thing, because I love playing the bad guy. Being the bad guy is it's so much more fun than being the fan favourite. I don't know what it is. I just love shouting at the crowd. It's great fun. And I came up with the character, this guy called Bagwell. First name Travis. Came up with the name of Travis from my favourite drummer, Travis Barker. And then Bagwell, who's my favourite character from my favourite TV series, Prison Break. Who was actually the main bad guy in that as well. So I just thought, okay, Travis Bagwell, let's put that together. Let's make a bully character, and let's see what happens from there.
So are you going to continue to wrestle now?
Absolutely. I mean, I did the show last Friday, which we got a bit of footage as well, and I had the time of my life. Absolutely. I worked with the promoter Rob, and I'm pretty sure that we basically tore the house down. It just went so well. That was one thing I was really nervous of actually forgetting a bit of the routine and whatnot. But working with Rob, he was top notch. We were constantly talking to each other, and
so you're going to go and do it again?
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, I know he's got a show coming up in
you've got a show in
14th
of November in Malvern. So
right,
you're going to be taking part in that?
Absolutely. I think we're going to be. I think myself and Joey Scott, which is his character name. We're going to have another rematch, and another fun thing of it is his mum actually got involved in the last match. So I'm sure the story's going to continue between myself, his mum, and Joey himself as well. Yeah.
Oh, it's great. Well, I mean, it's such an interesting thing, and it's so good that you've taken your passion down and you're doing both things, which is great. So, wish you all the best, and thank you so much for joining me on CuppaTV.
I appreciate you for inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're just going to take a quick break, but come back and join me in just a minute.